All right, report. I'm Billy Derrick, and I'm happy now to be joined by Mr. Rhett Wiseman, a recurring guest here at the Dore Report. He is able to hop right back on, the 2014 national champion at Vanderbilt. He played for the Commodores from 2013 to 2015. The Mansfield, Massachusetts native. I forgot to get that in last time, Rhett, but wanted to throw that in there. Of course, Corbin's got many guys up there from the Northeast. But Rhett, thanks for checking in again. How you doing?
Oh, great to be here, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Rhett, let's start with this season as a whole. Kind of, we'll talk about Kentucky, we'll talk about some other things, but I want to get your take on where this team stands right now. They've got a great overall record, but right now in the SEC, I think a little bit of it is catching up to a lot of these younger guys, especially bottom of the lineup. So, just overall, Rhett, what has been your take on where this team stands at 9-9, 500 right now in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, Billy, it's a tough conference. It's the best conference, college conference in the world, and it's tough. I think that year after year at Vandy, they've been able to have older teams, and I think the fan base doesn't really understand what an older team is until it's gone. And I think that's what we saw, right? Because people are all mad and this and that when the team's not winning every single series and winning every game like everybody's used to. But the reality is, when you have a younger team, you don't have experience, and I'm so glad that the fan base stuck around and hung by, right? Because eventually guys learn, they understand what level they have to play at, right? It doesn't matter when you look at how many guys they have on this roster and in this lineup that have experience. It's not many. And you have to take that into account when you're playing against these teams every single week that have fifth-year seniors. They have transfers that played for 3 years at other schools. Vandy doesn't have any of that. And when you add those two things up, when you add half of the SEC teams that have unbelievable transfer portal players who played for 3-year starters and captains on other teams, now they exploit this new transfer rule, which is ridiculous. They come to these schools, right? They're older guys. Now they're competing against Vanderbilt, who has all these young players who some of them never played SEC games before, and you put them up side by side. Of course, there's going to be a learning curve for the Vandy guys, but who cares about the beginning of the season? It doesn't matter, Billy. Recall 2014, we were the most underachieving team in Vanderbilt baseball history, and we go to win a national championship. It's not about how you do in the regular season. It doesn't mean anything. It's about getting hot at the right time. The way I see it, Vandy has won their past 2 series. That's all I care about. They're playing great baseball, and that's what they got to continue to do.
Right, you're a guy from Massachusetts. Vanderbilt, of course, has always had a lot of guys from that northeast region of the United States, and they come down south playing the SEC. A lot of there's so much talent across the country, but I'm sure you realized it, Rhett, pretty quickly. It's a little bit different in the southeast region of the United States. It's just a little bit different with the talent pool. And this year's team, you talked about it, one of the youngest teams in the SEC. A lot of these guys, like you said, are still adjusting to SEC baseball. But I want to ask you, Rhett, from your experience, of course, 2014, 2013, in adjusting to SEC baseball, how would you describe that? Like for a fan who may not know what that's like for the players, I know they may think they do, but for the fans that are trying to understand that, what's that like, especially because you lived through it?
Right. I mean, they're not professional athletes. You're talking about 17, 18, 19-year-old kids that, were superstars where they're from. And all of a sudden they're coming down to the best conference in the country, bar none, for every sport. And they have to compete against the big dogs. And not only that, now the SEC is in a situation where the best players in other conferences are now coming to the SEC as mature players, which never could happen when I was there. But you look at the team when I was there. I mean, we had Connor Harrell, Andrew Harris, Jack Lupo, DJ Luna, Mike Yastrzemski. We had this huge group of older players who had been around for years and years and years, right? And those guys have so much experience. I remember coming in here, I think I hit like 065 in the fall, and I was a superstar out of Massachusetts, right out of the Northeast. I went down to Nashville and got the bat, where the sun don't
Taking
shine.
at it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a huge adjustment. It's a miserably humbling experience. You get a nice big slice of humble pie, And for a lot of these players, when you're thrown into this thing, you think about some of these guys in 2020, some of those guys that were freshmen, they played what, 13 games? They don't even know what it's like to play an SEC environment. They don't know what it's like to go on the road and play at Mississippi State, to go play at South Carolina. They don't even know what that's like. The heat of SEC when winning matters, and they have no experience. That's nobody's fault. It's just experience. Now, what you're seeing, Billy, is okay, they're starting to get a hang of it. You're starting to see some guys in the lineup starting to learn how to play the game. You're starting to see guys do more stuff. You're starting to see guys put balls in play more with 2 strikes. You're starting to see guys slow their heart rates down, understand the pace that they have to play, understand the temperature that you have to play at in some of these arenas. And they're starting to win games. They're starting to compete. They're starting to win games. And that's what I care about. No, listen, however far this team goes, nobody's going to care about the beginning of the series. You couldn't tell me, how many series we lost in 2014 because nobody cares, right? They care about the big ring at the end. And that's all that matters. You're focused on just the next day. You're moving on. You're not living in the past. Get better. Get a little bit better today than they were yesterday.
Rhett, Vanderbilt has a guy in the midweek right now by the name of Devin Futrell. He is a perfect 8-0 in his midweek starts. And we've seen Corbin turn young midweek pitchers into postseason stars. I mean, we saw it with Walker Buehler in 2014. We saw it with Mason Hickman in 2018 with that young team that lost to Mississippi State in the Supers. So those are perfect examples of that happening. How much of an impact do you think a guy like Futrell, he's young, he's a lefty, he's been compared to Clayton Kershaw by a couple of guys. Now he's got a little bit more work to do in that regard, but how much of an impact do you think a guy like him could play in the postseason?
Well, huge, Billy. I mean, he's playing an incredibly huge role right now. It's just not realized. So midweek games are maybe one of the most important aspects of the season, because what a lot of people don't understand is your RPI, or strength of schedule, is hugely dependent on your success in the midweek. So winning midweek games changes seasons. It's the difference between making the tournament and not making the tournament. It's the difference between being a 1 seed, a 2 seed, or a 3 seed in the region. Having a guy, and that's why Vandy's keeping him there. For those people at home that are wondering, why isn't he not on the weekend? Why, do we have a different Sunday starter every Sunday? Why don't we just put him? He's 8-0 on Sunday. You need him to continue to win games on the weekday. Absolutely. It's of the utmost importance. And that's why you see him still there, because they understand that if they win the midweek and they win 1 game on the weekend and they lose the rest, they split the week. They're 500 on the week, right? It's not ideal, but it's going to get them to the tournament. And it's about winning games. So if you put the best player in that position, who is Futrell, on a Tuesday game, and he gets you a W, which he has, he's 8-0, it's incredibly, incredibly important. Yes. Is he going to be an eventual Friday night starter? Of course. Does he have phenomenal stuff? Absolutely. And he dominates good teams. But you need him there right now. And then when there's no more midweek games, you bet your bottom dollar he's going to be right in that rotation. He's going to be a difference maker in the postseason.
Rhett, offensively, this team, of course, pitching and defense has been consistent. You've had McIlvain, you've had Holton, you've had Cunningham coming on of late in the past couple Sunday starts. But what do you attribute? I know you talked about how this team is young, but several guys you've seen step up last season. You saw them step up against Mississippi State. So really, what do you attribute the offense's struggles at the bottom of the lineup?
Yeah, again, it's all about experience. It's one of those things where when you have this kind of lineup, you have to make sure that guys are getting at bats. And one of the things also that I've really liked about this season, Billy, is that you have a lot of different pieces. So you're seeing a lot of different players in there, and they need to do that. One of the most important aspects of developing a young team is getting different bits and pieces in there. So, having different guys in the lineup every day, that's a really, really important part to success, not only for this year, but for next year. Because one of the worst things you can do is play the same 9 guys over and over and over again, because what ends up happening is next year, the guys that leave, you have to plug guys in that have never played before. If you look back at the 2014 team, right? Go look back at 2013, and you'll see freshmen that got considerable playing time. You'll see sophomores that got considerable playing time, even though the core of the team was so old. Corbin found ways to get guys into the lineup because he understood the value of getting those guys experience. So over the next coming years, the team could be successful. That's exactly what he's doing now.
Rhett, with sorry as I catch my voice back, but it seems like Coach Corbin's guys are really able to flip a switch when it comes postseason time. No matter what they've done in the regular season, you talked about it. Why is that? I mean, what is it about Coach Corbin and his staff that he's able to do that so well?
Well, Bill, it's championship culture, and you can't win a championship on the 20th game of the season or the 6th game of the season, right? There's no championship to win. So one of the big things is we always talk about there, as the weather gets warmer, it means one thing: it's championship time, right? It's that championship season. You start playing in February, it's freezing cold, and then as it gets warmer, you're getting closer and closer to that big dance. And it's a championship culture. I mean, you're reminded of it in everything you do, whether it's the Omaha Challenge that you do in November, or whether it's every time you step into the gym and you see us hoisting the trophy, or in your locker room every day. You're constantly reminded of what it's like to win a national championship. And you understand that is the main goal. So seeing that every single day, and when it starts to get closer and closer and closer, and then you realize, okay, there's no school left. People have to understand, you're watching these games, you forget these guys are in a top 10 institution in the world, and they're not handed anything. These guys are expected to go to class every single day, 8 a.m. after, doesn't matter what time the game ends, right? Adrenaline pumping, doesn't matter. On a Sunday, whatever it is, Thursday game, you got class Friday, you got class Monday. You better clean it up, pull it together, and get your butt to class. And you're expected to be there, and you're expected to get good grades, right? So as soon as all that ends, and now all of a sudden, your only focus is on winning baseball games, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal because it's giving people the opportunity. It's giving guys the opportunity for the first time in the year to focus solely on baseball. So a lot of those responsibilities with school are over. You can focus on baseball. You're at the park all day long. You're loving it. It's warm. It's fun. And you win championships.
Makes it a little bit better in that playing in that Nashville heat as opposed to up in January, February where you got snow coming down. But
Yep.
Rhett, in terms of hitting slumps, every baseball player has experienced a hitting slump. You have, Dansby has, everybody has. A few Vandy boys are experiencing that right now, especially at the bottom of the lineup. Everybody goes through these, but from your experience, I got to imagine sometimes all it takes is one good swing, one good at bat, one good play, offensively. So, would you agree with that? Like what does it take sometimes to get out of a slump like that?
Yeah, for me, I would try and save at bats. Like when you're going bad, you're going bad. So for me, I'd try to get bunts down. I would try to get bunts for hits. And at the same time, if it's not a good hit, I get to move a runner over. You know what I mean? I get to help my team. If I'm not feeling good with the bat swinging, I have to find other ways. I have to get deep in counts and maybe work a walk. I'm going to get really on the plate and try to wear a fastball. You have to try and find ways to get on base. And, it's really busting your butt every single day in the cages before, afterwards, trying to find something to make you feel comfortable. The difference between pro baseball and college baseball is, you're playing 65 games in maybe not even 56 games in college baseball. There's not a lot of time to get into a slump and, recover from a slump. So guys put too much pressure on themselves. The reality is you're not too far away. You're never too far away. In a pro season, guys just don't really care. You kind of grind through it. You got 150, 160 games. It doesn't matter. College guys stress so much. They think the draft's coming up. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. You don't. You have to just slow the game down. Try to do something that makes you feel comfortable. And just get up there and compete.
Right, you mentioned maybe wearing a pitch. I didn't ask you this last time, but obviously you're not known for this. You're known for winning a national title, but I think for Vandy fans, they kind of look back and remember that. Partly when your name is called, and I'm not sure who you guys were playing, but there's a couple pictures online with you kind of reaching for your neck, and obviously I was watching it live, and it did not look fun for you out there. So what do you remember about that? And do you have any stories that kind of go along with that? Because man, that was, if Twitter was as lively as it was back in 2014, I think you might be a meme.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Social media now, I can only imagine the things that, our team did back then, and how we'd be just posted all over the internet. It's probably a good thing that, social media wasn't as popular back then. But, it's one of those things where, tough to see, and the shadows at TD Ameritrade are really, really tough, especially at the game time. And, the guy was a big leaguer, Tyler Alexander on the mound, and TCU, they were an unbelievable team. And, what do I remember from that? I remember us winning that game and it being a huge turning point. I remember Coach Corbin sending personal masseuse up to my room twice a day
Oh man.
to keep everything loose, because my whole body was in spasm. My neck, back of my head, all those little muscles back there, my entire back, my shoulders, my down through my hamstrings. Because you get hit like that in the throat, the muscles there are so thin, everything tightens up and goes into spasm. So in order for me to stay loose and play, I mean, Corbin had literally a personal masseuse come to the room literally 2-3 times a day to make sure that everything was loose enough so I can continue playing up to my abilities. And I'm so thankful for that, because I don't think I would have been able to do that otherwise. And, I remember winning an unbelievable game that night, and, crazy, some of the things that happened.
Crazy. I don't know another program that would bring up a personal masseuse. That's Corbin for you.
Yeah.
But Rhett, let's get back into this team kind of as we wrap it up here. Obviously, a tough 4-game stretch coming up. You got A&M at home. That'll start on a Thursday night. So you got to imagine. I think some guys will enjoy playing on a Thursday night. But you got at Georgia next week, and then at Arkansas after that, and then LSU at home. So obviously a tough stretch. You went through some tough stretches, of course, at Vanderbilt like this.
Right.
I mean, it's the SEC. I mean, you go through the whole season is a tough stretch, you could say. But what has to happen for you, as the fan you are, to kind of feel confident? Okay, I think this team is a regional host. I think this is a top 16 seed. What do you need to see? And then I guess in the win-loss column, what has to happen here down the stretch?
Billy, they're playing really good baseball right now. And what wins championships is not the hitting. It just isn't. It's pitching and defense. And that's just what I want to see, just cleaned up. And it's clean right now. They're playing great. They're pitching unbelievable. How do you pitch better than you pitch this weekend at Kentucky? They're pitching great. They're playing good defense. Enrique Bradfield is a human highlight reel. The guy is just unbelievable. I thought I played with some great center fielders, and I did. Connor Harrell was an incredible center fielder. Brian Reynolds, outrageous, right? Jaron Kendall, those are the guys that you think about. Enrique Bradfield, he's on another level. I mean, he's made like 3 or 4 catches where I've said that's the best catch I've ever seen. From a college outfielder, or nonetheless from a Vanderbilt outfielder ever. And I've seen a lot of Vanderbilt outfielders. I've played with a lot of them, and it's not even close. So playing really good defense, the outfield defense, is incredibly, incredibly important, because it's, a one little screw up gives an extra base. It's the only position where you can barely screw up and give a 2-base error and give 2 free 90s. You just can't do it. So outfield defense is extremely important, and especially when you have different guys playing left field, right? You got Spencer Jones and right pretty much every day. You got Enrique, who's not moving from center, but you got Vastine, and you got Vaz, and you get some other guys being plugged out and left. It's just consistent. We just need to make sure we're hitting cutoffs, which everybody's doing. It's been phenomenal. Really good defense. The infield just has to continue to play tight defense. I think Bulger's come a long way. I think Keegan's come a long way behind the dish. They both look really good, especially Keegan throwing guys out. He's come crazy. If you remember the beginning of the season, guys were running all over him left and right. He's tightened that up a lot. Pitchers are doing a better job holding guys on. Keegan looks so much more comfortable behind the plate for a guy that has barely caught before this year. He looks so good. Bulger's getting a lot better back there as well. So it's about tightening up the defense and continuing to pitch well.
Real quick here, Rhett, before I let you go, Nick Maldonado is a guy that is kind of slowly getting back into a rhythm. He got into the 30s. His pitch count did against Kentucky in his outing, kind of limited outing on Sunday. But for this team, I mean, he's a preseason All-American type of guy. He's a
Right.
guy that, they envision really, really helping this pitching staff. So with Nick Maldonado back, obviously he's not 100% right
Right.
now. He's not starting any games, but we're expecting to see a little bit more of him on Saturday, or whatever day he pitches against A&M. But how important do you think he could be down the stretch here with just having another arm? But he's not really just another arm. I mean, that's Nick Maldonado out there.
Well, he's it. I mean, that's the piece. I mean, you get him back and you win. You don't get him back, you're not going to win it. It's going to be really hard to win a championship. It's going to be really hard to win the postseason. You look at the bullpen. The bullpen's been one of the toughest parts of the team as far as being able to come in and close the door. I think for the most part this year, I think the starting pitching's been phenomenal. You look at this entire year, it's been unbelievable. Better than a lot of years, but the thing is you don't realize it as much because you don't think the offense is putting up as many runs.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't understand how important and how good this starting pitching has really been. I mean, you got Carter Holton out there who every time he goes out there, he keeps guys in the game. I mean, you get Futrell keeps everybody in the game. McIlvain, everybody in the game. I mean, every single time you're in every game, right? So that one piece that they've been missing is the absolute shutdown guys out of the bullpen. Now, Christian Little, obviously, if he pitches like he did on Friday, that's how I think he can pitch. If he believes that he can pitch like that, that's the confidence that he needs to have. But having a guy like Maldonado, I mean, you add him, whether he starts or whether he comes out of the bullpen, it doesn't matter, because if he comes out of if he starts, you move one of your starters now to the pen. That's another great guy that you can use out of the pen. But you need pitching to win in the postseason. You need pitching to win down the stretch. It's the most important aspect of this thing. So they need him to come prepared and ready to go if they want to win.
We'll see how much we see Maldonado, but we'll see if Vandy's able to get it done. It's this weekend. It starts Thursday night. Rhett, I know you'll be watching, and I know we talked off air, but we're going to try to keep this rolling. We'll check back up with you next week, Rhett, and maybe we'll get a rhythm going here with some of the Vandy fans listening. But Rhett, as always, it's so great to catch up with you, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Billy.
All right.